Okay, I'm live. Time for the sharing on the old social media pages as per usual. Give it a little bit for people to start catching on that the notification went out. Yeah, this stream I'm just going to be doing on YouTube because I think by streaming to Periscope was also messing with my internet connection last time. So that's another thing. Sorry about this crappy internet connection. Not only is it crappy to begin with, but with the COVID-19, I've already heard from the internet provider that, and I'm even getting a discount on the internet because of the fact that they recognize that the quality, it's just terrible. It's just terrible. But anyways, like I say, what usually happens, what I've noticed is the first couple of minutes, which obviously discourages people from watching the stream because the first couple of minutes of the stream, well, as soon as you open it up, it looks like the worst pixelated video that you've seen. Like basically, it looks like as if you were just starting to record something back in the early days of the invention of the video camera, right? Actually, back then it was probably better than what the streaming starts out. But if you just give it a couple minutes, it does clear up, and hopefully people are patient enough to give it a couple minutes, give me time to get this stream cleared up because I know that's probably discouraging a lot of people from even clicking on the stream or watching it. I mean, even if they click on it and they look and they see it's in terrible quality, well, that would explain because even myself, I don't know, I wouldn't be a big fan of watching a stream that was really, really bad quality either. So I kind of understand from that aspect. Like I say, usually give it 5 minutes or so to at least make sure that some notifications went out. And it is later in the day, so I'm not sure how this is going to even work out in terms of how many people is going to actually come and join the stream. But at the very least, like I say, I'll give it a few minutes, and then if I don't see many people, I'll just start right into it anyways, and maybe some peeps can watch it later on. Because there was a few interesting things, and I guess I'll cover this while I'm waiting, because this was something that I found quite interesting. Still not sure what it all means, and I've already read it once, and this will be basically my second time reading it, and I'm still trying to figure out what exactly did they mean with this. So let's look it up here. It's from the Guardian. Yeah, that's it right there. That's the one. That's the one. Make sure it's showing up. Yep. Yep. Okay, put the fonts bigger. But yeah, I guess before or while I'm waiting for people to stream in, I'll just take a quick look see over here. Hey, what's going on? Steve the Cross sounds and looks fine. Thank you very much. Good to hear that because I know it's been kind of crappy quality, especially for the first couple of minutes. It seems to clear up as you wait for a minute or two. It does seem to clear up, but good to hear that it's at least starting out half decently. Anyways, like I say, I'm going to get straight into this because I got lots to cover. So rather than just waiting for people to trickle on in, because who knows how many people are getting the notification, or because it's so late in the day, how many people are even going to show up the stream. So I might as well just get right into it here. So this is from the Guardian. It's a UK publication. Usually would be considered a leftist publication, but as with a lot of these media outlets, you get the odd contributor from time to time that at least tries to be somewhat objective in the reporting. But anyways, so the headline is: if ministers fail to reveal 2016 flu study, they will face court. So, bit of a weird headline there, anyways. But then it says doctors threat over results of 3-day simulation exercise that were too terrifying to be made public. This was reported on April 26, 2020. So that was just yesterday. Yeah. The government, let me just put the font a little bit here. The government faces being taken to court if it refuses to disclose the findings of an exercise confirming the UK could not cope with a flu pandemic. Dr. Marosa Qureshi, an NHS doctor, is demanding the government publish its report into Exercise Cygnus, a 3-day simulation involving government and public health bodies conducted in 2016. Qureshi, who is a campaigner with the group 54,000doctors.org, represented by Lee Day solicitors, has sent a pre-action protocol letter to the Secretary of State for Health requesting a response by 4 p.m. So actually, I should see what the follow-up on this is, right? I think I should have done that first and foremost. But anyways, let's just deal with it as it is. If the government fails to disclose the findings of Exercise Cygnus without adequate reason, Qureshi's lawyers will seek an urgent judicial review, challenging the decision and seeking publication. A crowdfunding page to support the challenge was due to go live on Saturday night. The row threatens to become a major embarrassment for the government. The Telegraph has reported that Cygnus's findings were deemed too terrifying to be made public. Last week, the Observer revealed that minutes of the government's new and emerging respiratory virus threats advisory group suggested the report had included 4 key recommendations, including one that the Department of Health strengthen the surge capability and capacity of hospitals to cope with the pandemic. A Freedom of Information request to see the report has been refused. Right? A Freedom of Information request, those are things that you're supposed to be privy to. The fact that they're refused, that's a little disturbing too, right? Qureshi argues that there is exceptionally strong public interest in publication of the report, given that its lessons and recommendations are directly relevant to the procedures developed to combat COVID-19. There's no persuasive argument for secrecy when managing a healthcare crisis, Qureshi said. Successful science and healthcare depend on transparency, peer review, collaboration, and engagement with the public. Wonder if this might have anything to do with when the UK, the first response from the UK government was to try to create some semblance of herd immunity and don't go into full-on lockdown. I'm wondering if this has to do with that, and now they've reversed course, right? Obviously. But yeah, I wonder if it has anything to do with that. I believe that if the government had followed the Cygnus exercise by engaging transparently with health and social care partners, with industry and the public, then many of the deaths of my heroic healthcare colleagues and the wider public during the COVID-19 pandemic could have been avoided. Tessa Gregory, a solicitor at Lee Day, said, Our client believes that the NHS workforce and wider public has a right to know what Exercise Cygnus revealed about what needed to be done to keep NHS staff and the public safe in a pandemic. If beggars believe that the information the exercise revealed is being kept hidden, when a public debate about its content may well inform important decisions about how to best protect lives going forward. A spokeswoman for the Department of Health said that she could not comment because of the legal procedure in place. Right? Legal procedure in place. So basically, button up. That's what these NDAs, these non-disclosure agreements. I mean, think about how many people have to keep their mouth shut, which obviously, I think is a detriment, right? Obviously, information, is much better than this kind of secrecy in terms of keeping the public knowledgeable as to what's going on, right? So anyways, like I say, I'll just move beyond this. I just thought that was quite an interesting article. I know a little bit out of left field there, but hey, what the hell? Like I say, trying to get as much of this stuff on record as humanly possible, which is why I'm doing streams and rather than my regular videos, because I'd have to upload probably multiple videos per day just to try to keep on top of things. So anyways, let me close that out. And like I say, as per usual, all of these articles that I'll be referencing in this stream will definitely be linked in the description of the stream below. So you'll be able to check them out yourself. Maybe do your own little investigation and further inquire as to what that was all about. Anyways, let's see if some peeps have joined this chat as of yet. Yeah, it looks like there's a few peeps in there. That's going on. Mr. G Rich, what's going on? Mr. G Rich. I'm doing great. Yourself, Mr. G Rich. I hope you're doing well today. Actually, I could be doing a whole lot better, but I'm not going to bring my own personal stuff into things. But yeah, well, I'll just mention real quick. I lost my grandma. I lost my grandma yesterday. So, and she was a really, really important figure in my life. One of the few people in my life that to this day, anyways, like I said, I won't bring my personal stuff into this too much. I've done that a couple times in the past, and I don't know, people don't necessarily like that. So, like I say, I try to keep most of my personal business to myself. But yeah, I'm doing okay, but I could definitely be doing better. That's for sure. But, as per usual, life does go on and events are still unfolding, right? Can't change that. Is using 4 brown color coordinate. I think not. Is using 4 brown color. I think not. Is using 4 brown color. 4 brown color. I'm not sure what the 4 brown color. But yeah, I just match, the branding with the whatever my shirt tie combo is at the time. That's kind of what if you're asking about that, that's kind of what that was all about. That is OCD. That's OCD. All right, if you say so. What's going on? Oh, thanks there, Gary. Hi, everyone. No one is locked up, just everyone's shut down, so we can't do anything. Yeah. No one is locked up, well, it's the same as being locked up. If you can't leave your home, and that's basically what they're telling you, I don't know. It's cutting, splitting hairs, right? Oh, thanks, Gary. I appreciate that. And thank you as well, Mr. G Rich. Like I say, don't worry about that, folks. I know everyone the sympathies and all that, and I really appreciate that. The worst part of it is, well, like I say, no, I don't want to get into it, but there are some things that are happening as a consequence. I haven't heard much as of yet, but basically some of the small details I have heard. All right, why not? Let me just deal with it real quick here. Is apparently she had ended up having some breathing troubles, and as far as I know, and no, it should be, as far as I know, it should not have anything to do with COVID-19, because from what I gather, based on, well, I mean, if you can trust all the information put out there, no one in New Brunswick has died from COVID-19. And actually the senior care facilities which she was in have not reported any outbreaks either. So like I say, but one thing I will say, now I don't know if it has to do with the elder aunt that's kind of the one that is in charge of what happens when she passed away, but I did hear some family members say that they're going to cremate her, and that's just not something my grandmother would want. So like I said, I have to get more information, find out more about this stuff. But the first thing that piqued my curiosity and my interest is, what do you mean you're going to cremate her? My grandmother's a very, very, very big religious person in terms of Christianity. And no, she would definitely not be. She would want to be buried, with the whole, your the whole cemetery thing, and your headstone, and the whole ceremony, because that's how my grandmother is, and that's the way she rolled, and that's the way she would have wanted to be taken care of after her life has ended. So I don't know, like I say, but anyways, let me get beyond that stuff. But yeah, it definitely piqued my curiosity as to what the hell is the reason behind that. Did you have a dream about your grandma? No, I did not. No, I did not. Nope, I didn't do that. Okay, so let's get back into. But anyways, thanks, folks. Don't worry about. Like I say, we got it. Well, appreciate that, shaboy, shaboy. Appreciate that. Like I say, thanks, folks. But let's get into the stuff here. One less letter, and it will stop an intellectual. Okay, check out the cause of death. Yeah, for sure. House arrest for no crime. GTO mama. Yeah, I know, right? But yeah, like I say, I'm definitely going to want to learn some information as to what's going on for sure. Battalion Health Minister saying, I have not stayed home at all. No one has stopped me from doing anything other than shopping, still hanging out with friends, driving around, enjoying the outdoors. Right on, Gary. You rebel, you. That's good. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people that, will follow the orders no matter how terrible the orders are. Same happened to my mother-in-law. This will sound really bad, but if you ever see people die, they're they all experience breathing problems when death is happening. Well, yeah, I suppose that's possible too, right? So yeah, like I say, I'm not speculating in the slightest. I mean, like I said, I haven't heard of anything in terms of any outbreaks in the province at all. So yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm definitely not. Well, once again, I'm not one of those people that, I'll wait for the information, right? Gary there putting into place new rules for second wave and third and fourth. Okay, so let's get into, like I say, because there's a lot of stuff. And now that we're talking about, the first aspect of this stream, as you can see, was, was it the contradictions, right? Well, let's get into that because there's definitely that happening. Now, I've already covered this article, but I'm going to show it again just so you folks or anyone that's in the chat that hasn't seen it yet can see. So I don't know if you remember, those of you who have, there was this headline article out of CBC that came out the other day. It was actually, just the other day, that April 25th. Canada's top doctor warns against relying on herd immunity to reopen the economy. Quebec's premier has touted the method as a way to get his province back to work. So basically, she's saying, no, you can't rely on herd immunity to reopen the economy, right? And this is the part, like I say, let me get to this next one. And it's, what is it called? Flat Out. Where it's like, no wonder Canadians are so confused about what the hell to think about this stuff, is because they genuinely do constantly get conflicting reports in regards to what any of this means. So let me scroll back up to the top of this. What was it, right at the bottom here? Yeah, right under wishful thinking. So as you can see now, this is another part of the story. So the part down there is the part that I'm going to reference predominantly to push back against the narrative in the posed from Dr. Theresa Tam, Canada's top health official doctor in Canada, right? But there's also this aspect of this article out of Saskatchewan CBC News, as you can see, flat out incorrect. Anti-lockdown rant from associate biology professor draws ire of Saskatchewan scientists. So just in the headline, what I like to do is just point out, and the fact that it's like, this is actually, when they politicize narratives like this, I love pointing it out because it's just it's become a very easy thing for me to do. So to in quotations, flat out correct, that's automatically trying to put in your mind that whatever this person's saying is, don't believe them, right? And then a rant, right? An anti-lockdown rant. So once again, it's those, so they're using those two quotations as a means to already put in your head, to plant the scene in your mind, to discredit this person. That is what that is done for, right? From associate biology professor. So if you're a biology professor or associate biology professor, right, you're someone that's obviously in that particular field. And then it says draws ire of Saskatchewan scientists. So just the headline alone, right, they're given two negative connotations towards this, and they say associate biology professor, right? Draws ire of Saskatchewan scientists. But if this person is a biology professor, right, teaching about biology, wouldn't he pretty much have to be a scientist himself, right? But yet they try to suggest that the scientists are basically pushed back against what another scientist. But see, this is how they make it so that you believe that this is how they convince you who to believe and who not to believe, by using rhetoric just like this. Widely shared video suggests most in Saskatchewan have already been infected by coronavirus. This is reported by Jeff Leo on April 27th. Actually, that was today, right? Yeah. So that's being reported today. Last updated 2 hours ago. Anyways, so I'll read a little bit of it, but there's a part down below, like I say, it was getting back to, but I might as well cover it since we're here. An associate professor of biology in Saskatchewan has raised the ire of other scientists after he claimed that most people in the province had already contracted the novel coronavirus and recovered from it, rendering the COVID-19 lockdown unnecessary. So, I mean, think about it. Just already down here in this couple sentences below that headline suggests that now they're acknowledging that he's a scientist, because an associate professor of biology of Saskatchewan has received the ire of other scientists, which literally suggests that they acknowledge that this guy's a scientist as well. But see, this is like I say, this is how they play politics. I'm actually surprised it's under the Saskatchewan file and not under the politics file, because you can tell they're definitely playing politics and propaganda in this article. Experts are criticizing, and that's another thing. Experts are criticizing Joseph Buttigieg of the University of Regina, who specializes, right, in neurology and stem cell physiology. So think about it. Experts are criticizing this guy, Yet this guy specializes in neurobiology and stem cell physiology, which suggests he would be deemed an expert too, right? If you literally specialize in that stuff, doesn't that make you an expert as well? But yet the experts are criticized. See how they politicize this stuff. This is how you know that's politicized, because this, every time you're adding these terms or these descriptors, it is literally meant to manipulate your mind and to think, well, okay, the experts, well, that's someone that you should trust. But this guy, even though he specializes, well, you know, obviously the experts should be in a general field of knowledge higher than his own, right? So, like I say, just pure politicizing. For social media posts that cast doubt on the province's physical distancing measures and the competence of Saskatchewan health officials. In a widely shared video posted on April 8th, Buttigieg, it's funny, Buttigieg, right? Was that Pete Buttigieg who was running down for the Democratic Party? Wonder what party of the U.S. Wonder if they're related. No, I'm just kidding. But anyways, said the Saskatchewan Health Authority has demonstrated gross ineptness in its handling of the pandemic because it has been unwilling to conduct or approve antibody testing. Why are they not listening to alternative hypotheses and alternative theories? Buttigieg said in an April 13th interview with CBC News. Buttigieg says antibody tests are a simple way to evaluate if his theory that most people in Saskatchewan have already had the virus is correct. So if they want to prove him wrong, right, rather than doing a stupid article and insult the man or suggest that he doesn't know what he's talking about, basically what he's saying, hey, do one of these antibody tests and you'll find out, right? Do some antibody testing and test my hypothesis. Isn't that what scientists do to test out if their hypothesis is true or false? Is do some testing, some research. Sounds like a proper thing to do to me. And it, based on this person that's a scientist and specialized in the field, seems like he probably should know what he's talking about, right? But, you know, like I say, but if it doesn't align with the political messaging that's most of the hacks in the media and the politicians are trying to cram or jam down your throat, well, like I said, this is the kind of rhetoric you're going to get. Antibody blood tests detect the presence of antibodies that form in the wake of an infection and can help identify who has had the virus and recovered. They differ from nasal swab tests, which detect an active infection and help public health authorities track and curb the spread of the disease. The outcome of the test is going to show that the vast majority of the population has already had the virus, meaning that social isolation is, one, not necessary, and two, didn't work as well as we thought it would, Buttigieg wrote in an April 2 post on Facebook. But anyways, folks, so like I said, that will definitely be in, this will be in the description of the stream as well. But this was the part, like I say, to go back to this whole thing with the other headline where Canada's top doctor warns against relying on herd immunity to reopen the economy, right? So no, don't rely on herd immunity to reopen the economy, because apparently herd immunity is like, I've always heard, that's the thing, people that love talk about vaccines and promoting of vaccines, they love to talk about how you have to have herd immunity and why that's the bully tactic they use towards people that don't want to be vaccinated, or people they claim to be anti-vaxxers. You know, the derogatory terms that they use to describe people that just won't just go along with anything that people say, or allow people to stick shit in their arm without having a proper understanding of what the hell's going on, right? Call them all the names you want, but I have nothing against people that, take precautions and don't just trust people in government or in the medical field just because, right? No, it's wise for people to be prudent in that way. But listen to this. So this, if you look down here in this part of that article, wishful thinking. Experts consulted by CBC agreed that it is Experts consulted by CBC agreed. So these experts that were consulted by CBC agreed that if 60% to 70% of the population had COVID-19 antibodies, that should stop the virus from spreading as widely or as quickly. It's a concept known as herd immunity. But Hassan Masri, a Saskatoon-based physician and associate professor of medicine at the University of Saskatchewan, said Buttigieg's claim is just wishful thinking, and that COVID-19 studies from around the world have shown no comparable rates of infection. So here's the thing. The studies that he would be referencing that's coming from around the world, they're still unfolding. They're not done yet. The ink hasn't even been drying on the paper, or these studies, right? And yet they're trying to use that as a means, it's just wishful thinking. So completely discredit and deny that that's even a potential without actual having genuine, like factual evidence to back up that claim. At least this other doctor, the one that's originally saying that maybe we should test for antibodies and putting forth this hypothesis, at least he's saying, hey, I don't know, but it's a hypothesis. Can we test the hypothesis to see if it's true or not? This person's saying, even though they have no evidence, right, one way or the other, so all they're doing is playing politics, or was this guy double as a fucking lawyer in the nighttime or something? Because like sounds very like legalese. He's saying is, well, there isn't anything, you know, there's no studies from around the world that have shown the comparable. Yeah, it's still unfolding. So you have no evidence to say he's correct or he's false, but you're putting forth the pretense that, oh, it's just wishful thinking. Whereas at least that doctor, the one originally we've been talking about or been referencing in this thing, is saying, well, hey, well, that's in the science field, that's how we test a hypothesis, is actually going out and testing them, right? But this person saying, oh, no point, I guess, no point in testing it. We just say it's wishful thinking and move along, right? Who would you trust more, right? Someone that actually wants to do testing and at least leaves open the possibility that, hey, this other alternative hypothesis may be correct. Can we at least try it out? Or someone says, no, it's my way, the highway, and I'm not going to pay attention to anyone else that doesn't go along with what I'm saying, right? Who would you trust more? Well, right? I mean, it's a pretty simple fucking answer as far as I'm concerned from who I would have more trust or faith in. That's for damn sure. But anyways, like I say, let me close out this article as well, because like I say, I found that to be quite disturbing at the very least. The fact that they even admit, these experts even admit, and that's another thing. In addition to that, I went to the World Health Organization, this bulletin, and it actually talks about this herd protection. I'll share that. It's in the description of the video. So right from the World Health Organization, they admit like herd immunity is a real thing, right? They talk about it all the time when they want to get people to get their flu vaccines. And, oh, if you haven't got your flu vaccine, well, we're not going to be able to have that herd immunity. And all these poor people will get, it's like, what the? Like I say, total contradictions. And why? Apparently because it doesn't fit the political rhetoric or narrative that they want to put forth and present. So, like I say, now that's just my opinion, mind you. And it's, you know, I'm not a scientist by a stretch of the imagination, but based on the evidence and the information that I've been reading over the past, month or so, like I say, seems like there is some contradictions or some contradictory statements taking place by these people that should know better, right? These experts. And let me get back into the stream, see who else has joined here. That's what I'm thinking, right? Exactly. That's what my mind's at. Same as you there, Stan, is test that damn hypothesis out. Don't play stupid fucking games. Don't play politics with this. Test that shit out. Unbelievable, right? Way I see, if you're healthy, carry on while respect others, want to social distance. If you're scared, older, compromised, immunity, then stay. Exactly. My sentiment exactly, Gary. Well, listen, all of us in this chat, we probably all recognize that. Of course, we want to protect the vulnerable. Like, that's the thing. The way the media and the way these hacks and the politicians keep trying to talk about people like us that just want to have some common sense and some evidence-based science, not just this goddamn bullshit. They would try to suggest or put forth, oh, what, we want people killed? No, actually, no, not at all. I'm like Gary, and I'm like pretty much everyone in this stream. I would suggest that no, we don't want that at all. But yeah, we definitely want some counter narratives and some hypotheses and theses and and some of these theses tested, right? Like try them out. Like that's literally what science is all about. But like I say, apparently just using political rhetoric seems to be more conducive with how some of these folks want this whole thing to unfold, which once again doesn't give you a whole lot of faith or trust in them, does it? They got like 2%. Oh, yeah. And okay. Yes, self-appointed. Yeah, exactly. Self-appointed experts. That to me is the most disturbing thing that I've seen. And it's been the rise of this in the last, at least in the last 10 years, of this constant pointing out of people as being experts. And like I say, it's all used as the pretense to make sure that you only listen to these people and reject whatever anyone else says, right? Yeah, when will we have to social distance online as well? Only 5 people about to watch and comment at a time. Hey, fortunately for me, I don't usually get a whole lot more than that anyway, so I'm joking, of course. A little bit more, right? But yet they want you to believe Dr. Tam, who already dealt with Ebola, doesn't mean because she's a doctor we should look up to. When she takes her info from WHO, which her top doctor is no physician. Well, not just that, Trish. There is an article. Actually, should I bring this up? Where did that one go? Yeah, well, actually, yeah, might as well. Let me just get to this since we're on the topic. Cape Breton Post. This one's a Cape Breton Post. It was all shared on all the media, but it was one that I found that came up really quick. And yeah, basically, so this Dr. Theresa Tam, right? Oh, we're supposed to have all this trust and faith when she's constantly changing her mind, right? Well, let's just refresh our memory, shall we, on just how much of a contradiction has taken place since this all started to come to light. So this is, like I say, from the Cape Breton Post. Published January 23rd, updated January 24th. Risk of coronavirus outbreak in Canada low, says federal health chief. So it's a real low risk of COVID-19 coming to Canada, according to this federal health chief at the time, right? With millions on lockdown in China and the death toll rising, Canadian public health officials remain assured that the risk of an outbreak of a new virus in Canada is low. For the second time this week, Dr. Theresa Tam, Canada's chief public health officer, updated the media on a new type of coronavirus that is causing panic in central China. Tam said Canadian officials organized to monitor the situation have contact with health officials in China and other countries, the World Health Organization, as well as airlines, the provinces, and other key players. So they had all this information. They were in contact with all like the world, but yet once again, the government of Canada continues to monitor, gather, and share information and ensure our readiness so we can quickly respond should the virus present in Canada, Tam told reporters. The risk of an outbreak in Canada remains low. While Tam confirmed a small number of possible cases continue to be monitored in Canada, she says there have been no confirmed instances of the virus here. Tam's update comes after the World Health Organization's emergency committee opted not to declare a public health emergency of international concern, but said in a statement Thursday that committee members agreed the urgency of the situation warranted that the committee reconvene in a matter of days to review the situation. And as we already know, of course, like the WHO definitely caught with their pants down and weeks far too late, which definitely could have played a profound effect. So you had the WHO caught with their pants down and Dr. Theresa Tam. Once again, same ordeal. Not exactly in the know. And obviously, now that we've had time or some hindsight to look back with that hindsight, that is 2020, I get that. But at the very least, we know that there was definitely mistakes made and some contradictions along the way. Meanwhile, in China, millions in Wuhan and surrounding cities are on lockdown as authorities attempt to lessen the risk of a disease spreading. As of Thursday evening, international media was reporting 18 people have died as a result of the virus, and some 600 more in China and surrounding countries have fallen ill. Also on Thursday, the U.S. confirmed its first case. So this is, got to remember, so they're already confirming in the U.S. about the first case. And the new strain of coronavirus, part of the same family of viruses responsible for SARS, is believed to have been initially spread to humans by animals via seafood market in Wuhan. But the WHO recently confirmed there has been limited human-to-human transmission, right? So basically trying to downplay human-to-human transmission, which once again, we already know what a failure that was. The virus is respiratory in nature and presents with flu-like symptoms progressing to pneumonia in some. Anyways, like I say, it's a pretty substantial article, but it was the bottom portion here that I wanted to read a little bit more on. Oh. If there is concern a patient could be infected, provinces are able to test for other possible culprits like seasonal influenza or other respiratory infections. But Tam, any confirmation testing for the novel coronavirus is done at the National Microbiology Lab in Winnipeg. Tam said hospital staff are already quite well versed in both protecting themselves against any sort of viral illness and preventing the spread of diseases to the public. So no need to worry. Everybody's already figured this stuff out. They've already got all the experience they need. No need to worry about anything like this happening in Canada. Everyone go home. Don't think about a thing, right? Right. All hospitals should have standard infection prevention control measures, which include how to handle people who may be coughing or sneezing droplets at the route of transmission, she said. That's actually relying on a foundational piece of policy and practice in infection prevention control. So, hey, don't worry. All these hospitals, they have all this stuff. It's all part of the policy anyway. So don't worry. Not going to have to worry about an outbreak because they've got that covered, right? Once again. Well, Tam said healthy members of the general public don't need to wear any sort of surgical mask for protection. In fact, she said, masks can often have the opposite of the intended effect, especially flu season, as people tend to touch their faces more often when wearing them. If a case does become confirmed in Canada, Tam said it won't necessarily change the risk assessment for the country. The public health system is prepared for potential identification of a traveler with this novel virus, given people travel, she said. That doesn't mean the rest of the population is at risk, right? It's all, like I said, it's all right there in black and white. Look at how many statements she's made that now has completely been upended and flipped on its head. And now if you read them now compared to what she's saying, completely contradiction. You'd be like, wait a minute, is this the same person talking? Because she's speaking out both sides of her mouth, seemingly, well, not necessarily at the same time, but in fairly quick succession. So does she really know what she's talking about? I don't know. Doesn't seem that way to me, right? But I figured, like I said, I'd cover that just to remember how much fail and how much contradiction has already taken place from this the top doctor in Canada. Oh, I'd hate to see what the bottom doctor in Canada would come up with. And wow, because if that's the most competent we got in this country, yeah, we're in a lot of trouble, folks. We're in a lot of trouble if that's the most top competent doctor in our country. You're in this country. The anarchist. Hey, what's going on? The anarchist. Right on. Was that the one? Yeah, you were asking about the socialist debate of socialists. Whatever happened to that? I'm really, like I said, I would love to have a debate, informal debate or discussion with a socialist. I've been kind of chopping at the bit, hoping that I'd see you send a message, but still just the birds or the crickets chirping over there. But anyways, you can't catch a virus in Walmart and Superstore, only in small business. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Yeah, don't worry. Go ahead, go to Walmart, right, or the Superstore, or like your local hardware store. No. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. But yeah, in a small business, right? It's just crazy, They're always experts until they don't go along with the narrative. Exactly, Mr. G. Rich. That's the way it goes. Yep. Oh yeah. Good thinking there, GTA Mama or GTO Mama. Smash the like button, folks. Would greatly appreciate it if you would do that. Post link of that video, please. Video. What video? What video? Someone else. Oh, you must be talking to someone else in the chat or something, because I don't remember posting a video. Leave your phone at home when protesting. Well, of course, the problem with that is, well, yeah, as long as you got some kind of a camera to record, right? One that doesn't track you, like an older camera that doesn't have a GPS tracking thing on it, but that's the thing with leave your phone at home. I kind of get where that might be decent advice, but it really is good to have a phone at least. And I get it because they're tracking and tracing, right? But if you don't have your phone and you get caught up in a precarious situation where that video evidence would really come in handy, well, you'd probably wish you had it at that point in time. So I don't know. Like I say, I don't know about offering that advice. I see where you're coming from and the reason behind your reasoning behind your stance, but don't know 100% sure on that. The only truth is the state maybe have most people leave them home and have just a couple people, right? That have, like I say, as long as you have something that can record video and audio, that's the main thing. And at least with decent quality, right? The only truth is the state marks. I can't believe the name calling and death threats on social media news site. Yeah, it's crazy, Brian Alderson. It is, yeah. It is insane. 20 million Chinese shut their cell phone off and shock the world. Wait till everyone shuts their cell phone off. Well, that's pretty cool. Like, to me, like I say, there's got to be people coming out with now, and I think maybe they'll start to ramp up their production on, get some phones that, like I say, have, and they were talking about it a couple of years ago. People were talking about like modular type phones where you can take out your GPS, the tracking, like the little tracker, your camera, your microphone. Like, there's got to be some way out there to get these cell phone companies to create smartphones where you have much more control over your privacy and who the hell can invade it or hack it, right? There has to be. I'm hoping, like I say, you got some great minds out there that are putting that mind to work. Yeah, that's a good idea too, Brent Alderson. Yeah, if you take the SIM card out, right? That's another potential. That's another possibility. Don't rely on herd immunity, but don't take her advice either, or her immunity. Right on, Trish. Okay, scrolling down, folks. Love your new style of presenting news articles. Very informative. Oh, well, thank you, Sina Alegria. I appreciate that. Well, like I said, normally I would do my video uploads, but I would literally have to do 2 or 3 a day to try to stay on top, because this is massive information overload. And like I said in a couple past streams, the most important thing to me at this particular time is to get as much of this stuff on record and documented, so that, like I say, I can worry about sorting through this stuff later, and having future uploads where they're much smaller, dealing with particular articles at a time. I can deal with all that after or subsequent to this, when this stuff does finally die down. But there's so much information, as you know, like each stream I do, I'm probably covering upwards of 8, 10, maybe a dozen articles, right? And like I say, mostly to push back and point out, like I say, the contradictions, the hypocrisy, the propaganda. Get all that stuff out there, so that people are starting to see just how manipulative the media can be. But thanks, Senna. I really appreciate that. What's going on, Big Cat? Princess Auto is hopping tons of projects on the go. I just got back and the place was so busy I couldn't get a clerk. Really? Wow, Princess Auto. And that's deemed emergency, is it? Or sorry, essential, not emergency. Anyways, I don't care. Like I say whatever, right? But it's just funny how the government just constantly picking who's allowed to make a living and who's not. Okay, see if there's any. It's online until June. Online until June. Must be you folks talking back and forth to each other again. They have a huge group of Canadians took the battery out of their phone, and there was a huge blank spot in their data. I wonder if the World Health Organization would advise to turn them on. You know how to grow a Faraday cage? Pseudoscientist. Oh, man. Just looking through here, folks, see if there's any more questions in the chat, and then I'm going to get back to, let's see here. We're never traveling again without new ID. Yeah, well, we'll see about that, right? They can't force facts. I mean, they can try, but yeah, good luck on that one, right? First, they should all have to run the gauntlet while we all get a chance to knock a piece out of them. Oh, the video of the Saskatoon doctor who got aggro. Oh, like I say, well, I've already closed up. Just like I say, it's actually in the description. If you're looking at this through the YouTube video, just look in the description of it and all those articles. And the ones at the top will be the ones that I cover first. They're in chronological order. Sometimes they're a little bit messed up, but this one was right on the money. So it should be like the first 2, 3, or 4 articles, and you click on it, you'll be able to see that. Because like I say, I always share all that stuff in the description of my stream just for that purpose, right? Yeah, let the free people and free market deal with the virus and how they want to deal with it, not the damn useless government. Exactly. The fact that, one size fits all approach, or name a video, I'll look it up. Well, that's a possible way how they'll do it, right? Rather than just force it, basically make it so you have to have it in order to function in society, because that's the way they'll do it. Like I say, because yeah, they're going to try to play a more political game and make it so that, oh, it's your fault, it's your own fault if you don't get the vax. Well, hey, too bad. That's, hey, you're the one that's choosing to be irresponsible, right? That's, yeah, I believe that is probably the way that they'll probably try to go about it. I would agree with that. Which, yes, I also agree with that. Might as well be forced. Same shit, different pile. Little different stink, but still shit, right? Oh, the underground economy will definitely grow. And whether there's cash or not, people, like I say, people are very creative and innovative. And, well, not everyone, right? Not all, but a lot of people are. Any thoughts on the RCMP officers firing shots at a fire hall full of people? It was posted on Facebook by people in the fire hall, then later deleted. That is some messed up stuff. But like I say, I'm not dealing with that particular topic today, so I'll save that for another video. Because yeah, I definitely want to be covering more of that that incident, and I will be for sure. All right. Okay, so back to, like I said, let me just get this one done up here real quick. There's more exciting articles to cover, but like I say, some of them aren't as exciting as each other, but I'm just going to get through them all because, like I say, I got to get it on record, folks. So this one here is out of the Toronto Sun. Lori Goldstein is the contributor, April 25th, 2020. Big government failed in COVID-19 pandemic. Yep. Tell us something we don't know there, Lori. We all know that mostly, but thanks for reiterating. Contrary to myth, Canada's response to the COVID-19 pandemic hasn't been an argument in favor of big government, but a savage indictment of it. Nice. I agree. The massive amount of government spending embarked on by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau that will be paid for by future generations to deal with the health and economic fallout of COVID-19 doesn't demonstrate the value of big government and massive bureaucracy. It demonstrates the enormous price we are paying for the failure of big government to do its most fundamental job: protect the health and well-being of Canadians, right? That's the thing for those, even those minarchist libertarians, the limited state, right? All the arguments and excuses why you need it, right, is for that. And even in that tiny, tiny little scope and what government is supposed to do, which once again, I would even say you don't need big government, right? You don't need to use force or violence to protect you from force or violence, right? Or you don't need an overarching security or nanny state to protect you from bad things from happening, because, well, that's probably going to be the real bad things that are going to happen. And it's going to happen a whole lot more often than the odd outbreak once every 100 years or so. And so, come on. Anyways, the massive, but to deal with that. So yeah, basically what they're meant to do, and they can't even do that minimally. It demonstrates, okay. Simply put, thousands of Canadians could have been saved from death and tens of thousands spared from infection had Canadian governments of all stripes done their jobs competently over the past 2 decades. The excuse by today's politicians, governments, and bureaucrats that no one could have seen COVID-19 coming is absurd. And basically, like that first article I was reading this, when they were doing a mock-up test in case there was a pandemic outbreak in the UK, obviously people were already aware of that. And actually, they knew after the SARS outbreak that a pandemic was potential, right? They talked about that. And why? Why were they not prepared, right? Why were they caught with their pants down? Well, because they work for government, right? They don't have that proper incentive to do the right thing. Since the 2003 SARS epidemic and 2009 H1N1 pandemic in Canada, there has been at least 5 major federal studies in 2019, 2018, 2011, 2006, and 2003, warning that Canada was not prepared for another highly contagious pandemic. So right there, right? It's right there, folks. Everyone, the problems they identify, from insufficient stockpiling of medical supplies to inadequate testing capability to a lack of coordinated data sharing between federal, provincial, and municipal governments, has happened again with COVID-19. So they're the ones that failed you. And there's going to, like I say, and the thing with suing the government, but whatever, listen, they're spending and printing money like it's going out of style anyway. So, at this point in time, the economic argument, I'm not even going to go with that when you're talking about the lawsuits, because you know what? Chances are they're going to destroy the Canadian currency to the point where it's not even worth fucking toilet paper will be worth more actually than the money that we have to use. So yeah, but do I think that there's going to be a substantial amount of Canadians that have either lost a loved one or have had their jobs destroyed, their income taken away from them, their livelihood, maybe lose their home? There's going to be a lot of lawsuits towards local, provincial, and federal governments. Now that the problem is with suing the government is you're basically just forcing other people to pay that off in terms of the economic cost. Because like I say, Trudeau or none of the premiers are going, but maybe there should be something at some point in time. Can we find a way to actually hold these assholes or these bitches, depending on the guy or girl, or whatever, but can we find some way to hold these people to account? Because suing the government, the economic compensation doesn't come from them. So they don't actually suffer anything on the other side of it other than what? A little embarrassment. But I mean, that's, people's short attention span will be moved on 15 minutes later and forget all about it anyways. But actually to make these people have to actually be held accountable and responsible for their failure that has caused the death and demise of, at this point in time, thousands, or I don't know how many actually, but however many people have died in this country so far, yeah, it definitely rests on the hands of these people that are supposed to be the ones in charge of this stuff, right? Ditto, chronic hospital overcrowding and hallway medicine, resulting in the massive cancellation of elective surgeries and treatment to prepare for COVID-19, created another looming medical crisis. The huge backlog of patients now awaiting these other vital procedures. Had government simply followed the advice of their own experts in multiple reports they commissioned going back 17 years, instead of ignoring their recommendations once the immediate crisis was over, time and time again, far fewer patients and healthcare workers would be sick and dying today. The greatest government failure of all has been in Canada's nursing, retirement, and long-term care facilities, where almost half of all COVID-19 related deaths have occurred, and between 70 and 80% in the hardest hit provinces, Ontario and Quebec. In 1966, the final report of the Senate Committee on Aging, cited by Trent University's Amy Torney in her 2013 article titled "The Marginalization of Long-Term Care in Canadian Federal Policy Making," identified chronic problems in the institutional care of the elderly that continue more than half a century later. So think about that, folks. So 17 years or so they've known, like, you got to do something about this stuff, and yet, well, here we are, right? Here we are, right? The committee said it was reminded on all sides of the gaps and weakness in current facilities for meeting the health needs of older people, and the extreme shortage of facilities designed and equipped to meet the needs of long-term patients. The committee noted that many older people with long-term care needs were ending up in hospitals because of a lack of nursing home beds and in municipal homes for the aged, which were not originally designed to provide skilled nursing home care. So desperate is the situation that even nursing homes of such poor quality that, according to authorities, they should not be in operation, have long waiting lists. Sound familiar? While there are well-run nursing homes with dedicated staff, every one of these problems identified 5 decades ago still exist today, including, as Torney wrote, that for the most part, older people with long-term care needs and their mainly female caregivers have rarely seen their concerns occupy national policy agendas or provincial government agendas who are responsible for these facilities. So government fail, and yet people still think just trust government, right? Just one more government program and everything will be okay, right? Not. Anyways, I thought that was quite an interesting article, right? And then, of course, let's deal with the mental health issues, because like I say, in addition to the contradictions is the consequences. And we're dealing with, obviously, the consequences now by just in the past couple articles I've referenced. But another consequence of the way the media is reporting on this and the way government is responding and reacting to this outbreak is having this kind of effect on the mental health of Canadians as well, which, is quite profound. Yeah, mental health matters as well, right? I'd say it's even more important than the potential of what? Even at the higher levels of, let's say, 2% of people that may die from this disease. Well, and it could be as low as, 0.1 or 0.2%. So a tenth of 1%, it could very well be. But even at the higher level, if you're talking 1 or 2%, that still represents a very, very small, tiny fraction of the Canadian population. Whereas this, like I say, wait till I show you this number, is much, much, much higher. So look at this headline out of CBC News Canada. That finding really jumps out. Half of Canadians say mental health has worsened during COVID-19 pandemic. And you know damn well why the reason why the mental health thing is happening is because of the constant fear mongering and fear tactics and conflicting reports, so that people just don't know what the hell to do, and all these authoritarian tendencies or measures and restricting and limiting people's freedoms and causing harm to them socially and economically for daring to what? Step outside to go to the park or to walk their dog or to do some chin-ups and all this stuff. You know that's definitely playing a profound effect on the mental health and the psychology of Canadians. Angus Reid survey suggests 44% are worried, 34% are grateful, and 30% are just bored. Chris Arsenal is the reporter for this one, April 27, 2020. As job losses mount and self-isolation continues, half of Canadians say their mental health has gotten worse during the COVID-19 pandemic, with 10% reporting it has deteriorated a lot, according to a new survey. Less than 20% of Canadians polled reported being optimistic when asked to survey their life in the past couple of weeks, and 16% described themselves as depressed, according to the online survey released Monday by the Angus Reid Institute. Now, of course, it's a survey, like so in terms of the representation of numbers, yes. Can it be skewed? Yes. But at least, like I say, they're trying to put forth suggest, based on this survey, that as much as half of the population, right? 11% said they were untroubled, 14% reported feeling normal, and 9% felt numb. 6% were happy, according to the survey conducted were they smoking dope at the time or something? Survey was conducted among randomized sample of 1,912 Canadian adults carrying a margin of error of plus or minus 2.2 percentage points, 19 times out of 20. But anyways, folks, so I thought like that was quite an interesting. Here it is. If you look down here, how Canadians describe their mental health during the COVID. So worried, 44%, anxious, 41, grateful, 31. But anyways, yeah, obviously worried and mental health being the thing. Oh, and of course, then there's the Alberta impact. So I'm sure the numbers are probably quite high for that. But anyways, like I say, I'll just put that aside. But it was just something kind of to pass over, just to show that, because mental health, like I say, is going to have a big effect on the Canadian people today, right? Okay. Oh, and then there's this, right? So once again, dealing with the consequences, because that's part and parcel of what we're trying to get to in covering this outbreak for today in this stream. So look at this. So in addition to the mental health, well, this is happening as well. This is under the politics section, CBC News. Minister says COVID-19 is empowering domestic violence abusers as rates rise in parts of Canada. Federal consultations showed 20 to 30% increase in violent rates in certain regions. This is Raza Patel, April 27, 2020. Canada's Minister for Women and Gender Equality said that the COVID-19 crisis has empowered perpetrators of domestic violence, as consultations reveal that abuse rates are rising in parts of the country. So once again, more consequences from the COVID-19 lockdowns, right? And yeah, if you have strained relationship with your spouse or something, and you now are being forced to spend even more time together, I would say, first of all, if you can't put up with each other, anyways, never mind. I'm not going to get into the personal advice thing, but yes. So having these lockdowns, the financial strain. How many times have gone? We all know. I know I have. I'm sure you all have too. How many times do we have arguments with spouses between each other that has to do with money, right? For me, if I could take away all the economic bull crap, I'd say me and my wife rarely ever have a disagreement on too much. It's always related to money and being able to provide, right? That usually is a big thing for a lot of families, for a lot of couples. Is economic hardships cause some serious strain on the relationship, and you do get into arguments, disputes, and stuff. But in addition to that, well, some people, right, get into even full-on domestic violence and abuse and all those kinds of things. And of course, this ramp up in mental health stresses, and the way the media is putting so much fear into people's minds, and people having their entire livelihoods destroyed, not being able to go to work to provide for themselves or their family. That's causing a massive amount of stress and strain on a lot of Canadians, which is no doubt causing and contributing to this now increase in domestic violence. So once again, what's another consequence? And it could very well prove once again that the lockdowns were a complete farce and a complete waste of time, which means a lot of this stuff that's taken place wouldn't have had to happen if a proper strategy or reaction had been taken place from the get-go, right? So, anyways, crazy stuff, folks. And like I say, that'll be in the link as well. And since we were on the topic of talking about those senior homes, let's get to this one. Let's cover this one real quick, too. This one is a Montreal exclusive CBC News. At a hard-hit nursing home in Laval, almost warlike conditions prompt resignations. I admit defeat, says one nurse who quit on Friday, burnt out from long hours and staff shortages. This was reported by Kate McKenna, April 27, 2020. At least 4 frontline staff at a Laval, Quebec long-term care home beset by a severe outbreak of COVID-19 have quit their jobs in recent days. One of them is speaking out, saying she's raising the white flag after watching some of her longtime patients suffer. Valerie Gilbert quit her job as an auxiliary nurse at CHSLD Fernand Larocque on Friday. There are 70 cases of COVID-19 in the home, representing 85% of the residents. Holy crap. To date, 20 people have died. Damn. According to the latest figures from the CISSS de Laval. Damn. Wow, all right. That's some pretty devastating numbers right there. The regional health authority that oversees the home. Gilbert had been working in the home since March 2018. I'm raising the white flag. I admit defeat, she wrote on Facebook. I am leaving this boat, which is sinking faster than the Titanic. You won't see me cry all the tears in my body because I've already shed them from my patients who died. The same patients I've known for 2 years, whom I've cared for, and until now, whom I've ensured a quality of life. Like, this is not going to be, like I say, think about what these people are going to go through, knowing or believing that they failed because of the situation or circumstance that they were placed in. And once again, yeah, there's fault because they were not properly given. Obviously, these facilities were not properly prepared. And who's in charge of that? But those in big government and in the federal and provincial health care systems that are supposed to make sure that this is actually dealt with so that people like this don't go through this kind of hell, right? But anyways, confirmed Sunday night that it received a notice Friday night from healthcare unions stating that 4 employees were quitting their jobs. A spokesperson said the majority of the employees who terminated their employment were working as patient attendants, commonly referred to by the French language acronym PABs. Yeah, so probably people on the lower end of the pay scale, which obviously should be, that's the thing. In a market environment, these people would be being compensated much better now, because that's the thing. When you're in a proper market environment, when your job is in massive demand, yes, obviously your wage and compensation should be reflected in that, right? That's the problem with big government and socialism, is these people aren't even properly being incentivized or compensated to step, or even these people that are the administrators, right? If you had a market type of system, there would be an incentive for these people to make sure that they were better prepared to deal with this kind of situation to begin with. Unbelievable. It was hard to see the people I took care of for so long basically dying and suffering. Oh, sorry. In an interview, Gilbert described conditions inside the CHSLD as almost warlike, she said. There's a shortage of staff and a shortage of medical equipment. The result, she said, is that staff are not able to give adequate care. Fail, right? In a statement, the regional health authority that oversees the home, the CISSS de Laval, did not deny the conditions were poor, saying it understands there are challenges in long-term care. Stop making these fucking lame-ass excuses. No, people need to be held accountable for this stuff. The impact on employees should not be minimized, wrote spokesperson Pierre-Yves Seguin, adding that workers have access to an employee assistance program and are encouraged to use it. Seguin said more than 150 people have been hired over the last 2 weeks, and clinical staff from other departments are being redeployed to long-term care homes. Anyway, so yeah, I'll like I say, I'll share this. This will be in the description of the stream as well. Let me get back to the stream and see what everyone's up to. Okay, Let's see. Looks like most of you folks are just talking back and forth to each other. Wow, RCS has the balls to say no one story. Okay, so still good, still good. All right, so I'm going to move on then, folks. Whoops. Where did that article go? Okay, yeah, here we go. Okay, so now, like I say, consequences. Yeah, consequences. We're still on the consequences here. And yeah, there's definitely a lot of consequences. And this is quite a devastating consequence when you think about it in its entirety, right? Wow. And once again, did COVID do this? Nope. Government shut down the economy, not COVID, right? COVID did no such thing. COVID is just a virus, right? Sorry, COVID doesn't have access to government legislation or mandates, right? So no, this is government. They want to use the excuse of the coronavirus as the pretense of why they did such, but no, governments did this, folks. So, like I say, if you look here at this this article out of the Financial Post with a headline, "Job gains since the late 1980s in Canada have now been wiped out," latest CRB data suggests. More than 7.1 million have applied for the $2,000 monthly benefit since April 6th. 7.1 million. Now, you got to remember, folks, in Canada, there's only probably 24, 26 million. I'm not sure exactly, but it's not even 30 million because you got to remember, participation rate for adults is in the 64, 65, 66% range, right? So 2/3, which means a third of Canadian adult age Canadians aren't participating in the workforce or active in the workforce. So you take out of that 37 million, let's say you got roughly 24 to 26 million of them. Let's go with 24. Just for the sake of, or actually, no, I guess we could go even up to 28. Actually, I can even go all the way up to 28, although there is not 28 million Canadians that are actively participating in the workforce, even prior to this outbreak, because that would be a higher rate than even the 2/3 number. But even if we go, like I say, even if we allow a few million more of leeway of a few million more, even if we use that number just because it makes it much easier to deal with the 7.1 million, right? Because 7 million, 7 times 4 is 28. So that literally means in just 1 month, since this whole thing, since the lockdowns took place, that means 1 in 4, 25% of those who work in this country have been put out of work or on the unemployment line or getting this CERB, right? This CERB, this basically government basically stealing from the unborn or the productivity of future generations to try to put this pretense of bailing people out in the here and now, right? But basically 1 in 4, so 25% of people in this country is now receiving some kind of government benefit or subsidy. So that what that really suggests is even so, if 7.1 million have taken the CREB or CERB, is there an addition that you can add in the people that were already unemployed regardless, right? Because that's the thing, over the winter months, there are already lots of Canadians are on unemployment waiting to go back to work in the spring because a lot of construction work doesn't take place over the winter time. So is that 7.1 million plus however many million Canadians or so were already out of work or actively on employment insurance as it is or seeking work? Because if that's the case, then you could be getting upwards to 30, 35. I mean, who knows what kind of percentage rate you might be talking about in terms of real unemployment in this country. But even at this rate, at 25%, if you go back to the Great Depression, what was it, 22, 23% was, I think, when they started getting the peak in the Great Depression of how many people were unemployed, which means that already this early on, that the number is even higher than what happened during the Great Depression, folks. The Great Depression. So that's quite a severe number as far as I'm concerned, right? And definitely something that Canadians need to be paying attention to. Yeah, COVID-19, this was reported by Anmala Shribanadian. I don't remember how to pronounce that lady's last name. But anyways, it was reported April 24th, 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic has effectively wiped out job gains made in the Canadian economy since October 1986. If the number of Canadian emergency response benefit claims is used as a proxy for the unemployment rate, according to an analysis of Statistics Canada data by the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, CCPA, publicly available data from Service Canada and the Canadian Revenue Agency show more than 7.1 million unique applicants have filed for the $2,000 monthly benefit since applications opened on April 6th. If an assumption is made that everyone receiving CERB is currently unemployed, that means the number of employed have dramatically plunged to a 34-year low of 12.1 million. Given that there were roughly 19.2 million employed prior to the pandemic-induced economic shutdown that began in the third week of March. Beautiful. I'm glad I see this number put in here, and I'm going to definitely keep this article open so I can, because every time I get these kind of statistics or numbers, I love to use them, because once again, I'll use this number to push back against a lot of bullshit political propaganda that they'll try to put out there at some point in time in the future. So I'm glad to see this, because see how high I was way overestimating in how many Canadians were actually, because I was trying to be generous, right? Trying to be even to the tune of millions of people. I'm trying to be overly generous, because I think the numbers are already detrimental and severe enough that even with being very generous with the numbers, it already sent a pretty clear message. But look at this. Basically, what this is suggesting is actually there was less than 20 million. So I was going up to 28. So 8 million, right? Which is even higher than the 7 million. So people, so I gave them an 8 million number, a number of 8 million higher than it actually is. And actually, who knows? It's 19.2. So it's closer to 19 than it is to the 20. Could be actually 9 million, right? But if you take 19.2 million, I'm not going to do the calculations right here. I could if I just took the time, I guess. But if you take that 19.2 million and you take away that 7 million, well, okay, so 20 million. So 21, that'd be a third, right? 21 million, even if you, because 19 is below 21. But a 7 million, if there was 19 million, like I said, let's go with the 20, but it's only 19 because it's so much easier to do these things if you do in that way. But that 19 or 21, if you had 21 million people working and 7 million, well, that's a third. 7 times 3 is 21. So that's a third. So you would actually have an unemployment rate that's actually 33%. And because it's 19, that actually would be even higher. So what are we looking here? 34, 35%, somewhere, maybe even higher, maybe between 35 and 40% unemployment rate. That means for every 3 people in this country, at least one of them is unemployed. Wow, folks. Like, tell me that doesn't, if that doesn't shock your sensibilities, then I don't know what it is. You might want to check your pulse, because you might not be alive at this particular time. You might have been COVIDed, right? I don't know, but that's a ridiculous. I mean, wow. So yeah, I'm definitely going to keep this out so I can make sure I got this information, put in a place where I'll be able to reference it at some point in time going forward, because that's a really, really interesting number, to say the least. Devastating. Employed prior to the pandemic-induced economic shutdown that began the third week of March. The last time there was so few people employed was in October 86. Yeah, was that Black October, I believe they called that, right? The complicated factor, however, or was that during the plague? And it's funny because it was October, and I think it was October during the Great Depression on that Black Friday, wasn't it? When the economic crash happened in 1929, the stock market. But anyways, let's move on. The complicating factor, however, is that CERB benefits were expanded in mid-April to include the underemployed and those earning less than $1,000 in a 4-week period. Such workers are not traditionally included when calculating. Aha! So it could be that, but either way, if they're all getting the number, that might be the discrepancy between how the old employment rates were reported and how the new employment rates are. But it's still people, it's still 7 million people that are getting government handouts at this particular time, right? So that doesn't change. Such workers are not, okay. It is therefore plausible that the numbers of CERB applications, despite being an indication of how many Canadians are in dire financial straits due to the pandemic, right, will always be higher than the actual rate of unemployment. But CCPA senior economist David McDonald, who crunches the numbers, said that those who are unemployed have probably not yet had a huge impact on CERB applications because the program's expansion did not take place until April 15th. So, like I say, sounds like bad news all around, right? The government said it has paid $22.4 billion in CERB benefits as of Thursday. The program has a budget of $24 billion, which is supposed to last for 16 weeks, and is already paid as of Thursday. So, yeah. Going to be a whole lot higher than what they're pretending, right? Job creation in Canada has been steadily climbing since the late 1980s, with slight dips between 1990 and 94, and again during the 2008-2009 recession. But even as in the depths of the financial crisis, the numbers of employed Canadians only declined by roughly 425,000. Statistics Canada data showed. So even in the depths of the financial crisis, right? That we were all told we have to fucking bail out the banks. We have to allow all this crazy shit to take place, basically upsetting the entire economic system almost entirely and putting it upside down on its head. And at that particular time, the employment rate only declined by 425,000 in comparison, contrast to the 7.1 million, or even if those numbers are moving up, down, and whatever, like I say, depending on the people that have got that $1,000 a month or so. But I mean, right? 425,000, like you're already like many magnitudes higher when you're talking about 7 million. Wow. Canada's official unemployment rate now stands at 7.8%, right? An increase of 2.2% since February, but that figure was calculated after just the first 2 weeks of the pandemic before anyone was even able to apply for CERB. So like I say, you wait. Anyways, folks, I'm definitely going to keep this article open because, like I say, there's some great information contained within it, and I'm going to want to use that going forward. But I mean, think about that. Think about that. That's huge, folks. Huge, folks. Let's see. All right, looks like everyone's still just kind of talking amongst themselves. Right on. So let me just get over here to this article because, yeah, was it this one? Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of Canadians, you get some pretty shabby information from your thought leaders, and especially at CBC News, right? They constantly, and the way they constantly tell how, oh, don't worry in Canada. Oh, yeah, it's the Americans. They're so heavily debt ridden and blah, 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 always constantly insulting and deriding the American people and pretend that, oh, up here in Canada, oh, yeah, Canadians are much better off. They're not nearly as indebted. And then they try to bring up the bullshit excuse that, because the federal debt's only like between 30 and 40%. Oh, but the U.S. federal debt's like 107% or whatever the hell it was. Like, oh yeah, look at how much better we're doing. But like I say, those pesky little details really get in the way of some good old fashioned political propaganda if you actually are wise enough to delve into them and sort them out, right? So like I say, this headline article is out of the Financial Post. David Rosenberg, the great Canadian debt surge has come home to roost. Somehow Ottawa has to shoulder a good chunk of these liabilities. This was reported by David Rosenberg, April 24th, 2020. Here, I'm not sure if you can see that very well when it's highlighted, so maybe I'll not highlight it and see if it's better. Anyways, there's a very good chance that the need for more massive federal assistance for the provinces, households, and the business sector will trigger a downgrade in Canada's credit at some point soon. It may be true that the federal government went into this mess with a seemingly well-contained debt to GDP ratio of 31%, but for the entire economy, at all public and private sector levels, the ratio is an unprecedented 350%. Canada in aggregate doesn't have a AAA rated balance sheet to begin with, and now Ottawa has to somehow shoulder a good chunk of these liabilities. So think about it. 31%. Oh, yeah, federal debt to GDP is only 31%. So, yeah, we can do a whole lot more spending because, hey, our debts are only 31%. The U.S. is, it's like, well, wait a minute. Like I say, those 37 million Canadians are alive today. There's only one of them. You don't get to clone them to pay off these debts. There's only one of each of those 37 million Canadians. And all these debts combined are 350% of the gross national product of this country, which is 3.5 times, right? So come on. I mean, 350%, that's a massive amount of debt. And just to give you an idea how indebted this country is, I'm glad to see some actual real numbers coming out of this report. And like I say, this is going to be that last article, and this one's probably going to be one I'm going to want to clip out and use for a future video just all on its own, right? Because, yeah, this is big time stuff right here, folks. In the end, it doesn't matter what the rating agencies do, as we saw with the inconsequential U.S. debt get downgraded in the summer of 2011. It has to be remembered that prior to 2002, the Canadian federal government was frequently rated as an AA- credit by at least one of the major agencies. I'm not sure anyone cared or even noticed, as much as it may be a source of national pride. Remember that in 2002, when the Canadian government was an AA- credit, that all-in debt to GDP ratio was more than 100 percentage points lower than it is today. And we also have to keep in mind, especially now that the government is being forced to backstop everyone, that the national balance sheet really is Ottawa's balance sheet when crises emerge. Ireland is a classic case in point. In several stages during the great financial crisis, the federal government felt compelled to bail out the banking sector, which, when all sector liabilities were included, meant that the government debt to ratio ballooned to 110% from 21% within 4 years' time. It was really north of 300% when all the guarantees were factored in. So that's the thing. All these countries around the world, yeah, they try to put the balance sheets, they try to spread that around so that they can play these kind of political propagandist games or pretend that, oh, don't worry, the debt's not that high, right? Oh, don't worry, the budgets will balance themselves, like fucking Trudeau the dipshit said, right? Prior to that recession, Ireland, like Canada today, possessed a AAA rated federal government balance sheet. By 2011, all three major agencies had downgraded the sovereign credit ranking to BBB. Canada may end up being lucky if all it ends up seeing is a cut to AA. It's likely we'll be facing a series of downgrades, and frankly speaking, the national balance in aggregate is already barely investment grade, because it is shameful to have been incurring such a massive debt load at the peak of the cycle and at or near full employment, right? So when all these debts were being incurred, that's another thing you got to remember, folks. While all these massive debts and deficits were being ramped up under the fucking reckless Trudeau liberals, yeah, we were supposedly, the economy was doing great. We were having, real supposed economic growth. Although, like I said, that was central bank stimulated economic growth. That was not real economic growth for the most part. But like I say, the fact that they were doing all this spending in times of when the cycle was at its peak and unemployment was down to what was it? Like 5% here. I mean, under those conditions, even John Maynard Keynes himself would have said, no, it's under those conditions that you're not supposed to be spending. And you turn the taps, the printing press off, right? Turn the stimulus off. But like I say, once you turn people into Keynesians, well, there you go. You try limit and restrict them once they have the power of the printing press, right? Good luck on that one. It's likely we will face a series of downgrades, and frankly speaking, okay, I already read that. It's not just the debt either, but the denominator, national income, which threatens to take the ratio of liabilities to GDP further into the stratosphere. Yes, interest rates are close to zero, but they won't be there forever. And there's this other not so little thing called the principal that still has to be repaid, right? So yeah, so when you're talking about deficits, that's the amount of the deficit that's being incurred and placed on top of the original outstanding debt balance, right? The debt balance itself is never touched. It's always what we're going to reduce or try to eliminate deficit spending. But the debt, when the hell is the debt ever being paid off, right? Yeah. Anyways, it will be interesting to see how a central bank here's the part that's most interesting. And I've said this before. And actually, when I was reading this, like, hey, wait a minute. Was this guy watching my videos? Because it sounded like he's basically taking a lot of what I said in the past, word for word almost. But anyways, let me read a little bit here. It will be interesting to see how a central bank that does not govern over the world's reserve currency and a country with a massive balance of payments deficit will be able to have all this largesse find its way onto the Bank of Canada's balance sheet. And the rampant money supply growth this will engender, without jeopardizing global investor confidence in the relative value of the Canadian dollar, which I believe will not end up bottoming until it hits 60 cent US. I'd say maybe even lower than that, but let's, if you want to be conservative in that way, whatever, right? But anyways, as bold as that sounds, it may end up proving to be a conservative. It may even prove to end up being a conservative forecast, which I would suggest, because it should, based on the fundamentals, I would say it should go down even worse. But anyways, as Canada's 350% total debt to GDP ratio compares to, let me start that again, folks. Sorry. Canada's 350% total debt to GDP ratio compares to 330% in the United States. So once again, just use this. Anyone that ever suggests that, the US, they're just way more indebted than Canada and like we're doing so much better. Well, just point this out. Actually, nope. When you take everything into account, as this is doing, and compare them equally and properly, then no, Canada, right, in aggregate is more indebted than the US in aggregate. So suck on that, right? Which has the most, and here's the thing, right? Which has, and just like was already alluded to earlier, the US, though, one of the major benefactors that the US has, which Canada definitely does not, is they are the world's reserve currency, right? And let's get to the rest of the part of this, because you folks have heard me say this many times before, and you'll probably recognize it. Sounds quite familiar, doesn't it? But anyways, as bold as that sounds, okay. Yeah, here we go. As bold as that sounds, it may end up proving to be a conservative forecast. Canada's 350% total debt to GDP ratio compares to 330% in the United States, which has the most powerful army in the world and the world's reserve currency, which means the Federal Reserve has the largest printing press of all, and it gets its ink for free, right? Exactly. That's why the U.S. can get away with what they're doing. It's not just the fact that they got the Federal Reserve that is the world's basically reserve currency. And of course, because of that, then of course they have the largest print press as a direct result of that. But how they'll still be able to maintain with all these ridiculous debt levels and still be able to get the upper hand against Canada or Germany or China or some of these other places around the world is by the fact that, not only they got the world's largest printing press and the world reserve currency, but they got the largest military by far on the planet too, which gives you a whole lot of power to not necessarily have to be held to account and hold other people to account instead. So yeah, that's the thing about the U.S. And like I say, not a fan of all this stuff, not a fan of the U.S. using the power of their military or the power of the printing press to bully other countries too. But once again, at least David Rosenberg here is reflecting on the reality that most Canadians in the media or these so-called economists don't want to acknowledge. Is like, Canada is not the U.S. And to pretend that Canada can punch so much above its weight in comparison and contrast to the U.S. is like, what kind of a wishful thing? You want to talk about wishful thinking? Yeah, please. Like, really though? Come on. Wow. And listen to this, folks, because I think there's lots of information in this article, like I say, that you get some great info out of it. So Italy's debt ratio, I mean, think about what we've heard about Italy. Italy's basically the basket case. Well, it was Greece and Italy, right? And they've been in this fucking mess forever since the financial crisis. And Greece is going, look at the hell Greece went through. What were they at one point in time for what was it? Almost half of the young people were unemployed, right? And in the high or the mid 20% of people. So, I mean, Greece was already a bad case and Italy was not far behind. But even that, Italy's debt ratio is 360% and its current credit rating is BBB. Canada's only 10% below that, right? So come on, Canada, like I say, you're lucky these credit rating agencies are still giving you this pretense of, we'll trust you for a little while. And why is that probably the case? Because Canada is the U.S. neighbor, right? So the U.S., what they figure is probably the U.S. will, if there's a country on the planet the U.S. will protect, it'll be Canada. And if they got to protect the country, well, I guess they might as well try to protect the currency as well. So really what it is Canada is relying on the U.S., not just for a multitude of things, but even to have their credit ratings still so high, even at these ridiculous debt levels, right? But how long is that going to last with Canada, the politician, the political class, and the media class constantly trying to poke the Americans in their eye and constantly deriding and insult Trump on a regular ongoing basis? I don't know. Are they still going to continue to want to be willing to, keep Canada under their wing? I don't know. We'll see, right? We'll see. Yeah. Greece is 340%, right? So actually Greece now has a lower debt ratio than Canada and Italy. Right? Greece, right? And its rating is BB minus. Spain's debt ratio is 360% and it has a BBB rating. And China, right? China is at 290% and it has just an A+ rating by S&P. So Canada, even as it stands, deserves a AAA sovereign rating based exactly on what criteria? A good question. Yeah, exactly. What criteria are they used? Well, you know what it is. Like I kind of alluded to is, basically don't worry, the U.S. will take care of his big brother down, our big brother to the south, old Uncle Sam. Let's call him Uncle Sam, right? Don't worry, Uncle Sam will take care of us some way, right? Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily, especially not with these, with Trudeau in power, right? Again, as the Ireland situation showed, as a country's debt really comes under central government's purview when push comes to shove, and all this more so when the alternative is a default and a delinquency wave from the provincial business and household sectors. We're all one unhappy family at the moment, and the obligations merely now get transferred to the entity that has the balance sheet and ultimately taxing power to absorb these liabilities. So once again, taxing powers, taxation steps. So long as there's somebody out there got the ability to force people to pay this stuff off, just like with the U.S. with their military or the Canadian government to force the Canadian people, at the end of the day, this is all based on their ability to use force or threats of violence or theft as a means to keep this scheme going, right? But with cryptocurrencies that can give you anonymity and decentralize and take that power out of the hands of government entirely, if more and more people were pivoting towards that, how much power would the U.S. Federal Reserve and the Bank of Canada really have? Not a damn thing, right? They'd have zero power, which is why these cryptocurrencies based on blockchain encrypted technologies are definitely going to be very important going forward into the future. Anyways, folks, like I say, I won't read any more for that. I definitely, like I say, it'll be in the description of the video below, but pretty interesting stuff, right? To say the very least. And like I say, this kind of information and data is beautiful as a means to push back against these hacks that keep trying to put forth the notion that, oh, Canada is doing so much better, right? Whoa, it's just pseudoscientists. It looks freedom. Looks like the only one commenting is basically pseudoscientists. Oh, Mr. G. Rich, what's going on? Sorry, I didn't see. Why did that not pop at the top? That's sorry. I really apologize that for that, Mr. G. Rich. Wait until the numbers come in for personal small businesses bankruptcies. Going to be better. Yeah, I agree. Especially with all these, because a lot of them, especially if you're like someone from even close to the boomer cohort age range, are you even going to want to bother at this point in time, right? Or you just, lick your wounds and go and retire? Why even bother trying? Might as well just, if the business shut down, just find a way to go off and, maybe become a snowbird. So yes, there's definitely going to be a tremendous effect on a lot of the business owners, especially the ones that are older. And like I say, it's like, why even bother anymore? A lot, especially if you recognize the kind of situation that you have to function in. It's like, yeah, you're playing in a Ponzi scheme and it's a rigged game. So yeah, a lot of these business owners might very well just put their hands up and say, forget it. I'm done with it. I'm out of here. Exit stage left, which obviously is quite detrimental. I agree there, Mr. G. Rich. And thanks for the donation once again, by the way. So I'm just going to real quick here, like I say, stroll down to the bottom of the comment section. Okay, so now that we got that done, let me go to, so we got the consequences, we got the contradictions, we got the consequences. Now let's get to the control. This is crazy, folks. You wait to see some of the stuff I'm going to be covering in terms of the control aspect of this. And I know we're down to only 19 people watching here now, but whatever, I guess. Should have stayed because there's some good stuff going to take place. But anyways, it's all good. They'll catch it later. No, but like I say, to me, I guess that's the thing. It's all subjective in terms of what people find important, but I find this stuff quite important. This first one is, it's bad, but it gets worse. But anyways, definitely, like I say, I was one of those people early on that thought Doug Ford was going to be, oh, thanks, Mr. G. Rich. Appreciate that. I thought Doug Ford he was definitely better than Wynne, but like I say, the power is getting to his head now, and he seems to be not only willing to get into these stupid lockdowns and not try a different strategy, like Sweden or other places around the world have tried, right? But no, he's going with just the one-size-fits-all approach. So Doug Ford is definitely showing he lacks some real courage. He really does. But he seems to have lots of balls when he wants to call out people who want to defend their rights, freedom, and liberties, or their right to protest against government, right? Like, don't go too authoritarian there, Dougie. Yeah, these people, they're allowed, right? It's kind of the whole thing with, supposedly pretend that you're in a free country or a province that respects people's right to protest the government, right? No need to toss out the insults there, Dougie. Anyways, headline, as you can see, Ford calls anti-lockdown protesters reckless, and he unveils new support for frontline workers. And yeah, not those in the private sector. No, Dougie's just going to take care of the big government workers. So that's what they do these days. That's like, I think, aren't the Ontario conservatives still considered progressive conservatives, which makes sense because, like I say, they're a bunch of socialists too anyways. Same shit, different pile, different color, different texture, but yeah. Frontline workers to get $4 per hour raise and receive monthly bonus of $250 if they work more than 100 hours in a month, which is only 25 hours a week, right? But anyways, but who's going to get that? Yeah, government workers. This is being reported originally by the Canadian Press and, of course, copied and pasted into the National Post, April 21st, 25th, 2020. Ontario Premier Doug Ford ripped anti-lockdown protesters at Queen's Park today, calling them reckless and selfish for defiant physical distancing measures as he announced new support for frontline workers. First of all, the people that went to that protest, right, they chose to do that voluntarily, Dougie. So they chose to take that responsibility on themselves, to put themselves in that situation. So how are they selfish for defiant physical distancing? They've all agreed it. There's nothing selfish. They've all agreed. It's like, yeah, are you coming to the protest? Yeah, I'm coming to the protest. They've all agreed, Dougie, that they're willing to accept that risk. And you know what? Were you there? Did you make sure? Did you see how maybe they were distancing? Maybe they were making sure they were turning their head if they had to cough or when they were talking. Did you see all that, Dougie? Probably not, but you're going to insult them anyways, right? Like I say, obviously someone that doesn't care about being reelected. What, are you trying to give the Liberals another term once you're done there, Dougie? Because like I say, the people that trusted you or had faith in you that you're going to be any better is probably, you know, if they're anything like me, probably getting a little bit more disappointed all the time hearing this kind of nonsense. But yeah, his new support for the frontline workers. And who are these frontline workers? The provincial government announced a $4 an hour raise over the next 4 months for frontline workers who are helping fight COVID-19. Now, and once again, nothing against the frontline workers. I'm not talking about them. This is a choice of the government. But who's the government's looking to bail out and prop up? Well, yeah, but like I say, as much as people like say, oh yeah, but the people in the healthcare, they're on the front line. Well, so are people in the fucking grocery stores, right? And they get paid a whole lot less than people in the healthcare field, right? And they don't get a gold-plated pension when it's all said and done either, right? So anyways, workers will also receive a monthly bonus of $250 if they work more than 100 hours in a month over the next 4 months. The Premier said the bonus will be eligible for workers with long-term care homes, retirement homes, emergency shelters, supportive housing, social services, congregate care settings, correction institutions, and youth justice facilities, home and community care providers, and some staff in hospitals. So government, and maybe the odd private sector worker that works in maybe some of these private long-term care homes or facilities, but mostly government workers, right? What? So he's going to take from the private sector, the people that are in those positions that are on the front lines of the public sector or the private sector, the ones that are only ones out there paying taxes right now. Because if you're not working, you're not paying taxes, right? So the ones that are out there on the front lines in the essential services in the private sector are being forced to pay. And even though they're not getting this top up or these bonuses, they're going to be forced to pay for, or like I say, whether they put it on the current debt or some future debt, they're either the people that are alive today or some point in time, the people in the future. But all people in the private sector are going to be the ones that pay for these government workers. So picking winners or losers in the economy. Yeah, that's what hacks in government do, right? Anyways, check out this next one. So like I say, Dougie likes his control. And if you don't abide by what he wants you to do, well, what's he resort to? Insulting you. He had his Hillary moment. Why didn't you just call them a bunch of deplorables, Dougie? You and Hillary, actually, maybe you should sit down there sometime and conversate with each other, and you can sit and, you know, hammer out all these different demeaning words or terms you can use to describe people that just don't align with you, right? Politically, and maybe have a difference of opinion or perspective. What can we say? Anyways, listen to this one too, folks. God, the ads are, I get it though. I get it. You got to pay for your stuff somehow, right? Oh my God, though. Oh, like an ad here or there would be one thing, but why is it? It's just like television, like when I was growing up. Now you can't just have a commercial or two. No, it's got to be a fucking million goddamn commercial. Like, that's why you think alternatives to TV come to exist, is because people are so sick and tired of like basically as much advertising as TV programming. Like, and now the internet is basically turning that way. I'm telling you, folks, we got to get back to the pay to play model, or things are just going to resort back to where a certain small percentage of people have control over frickin' everything you see or hear. YouTube is terrible for notifications of this kind of content. Yeah, no doubt it. Right on. Awesome. Good to know there, Mr. G. Rich. But anyways, like I say, let me deal with this one first, because this one was a little bit lesser than the other one, but still ridiculous, especially for all the you folks out there that are into boating. But yeah, so this is out of Check 10. I believe it's it's a radio. Is it AM? CHEK? I believe it is. A radio station. Headline: Canadian Coast Guard asks people to stay off the water as search and rescue calls increase. April 25th, 2020 is when this was reported by Rebecca Lawrence. With the start of the boating season underway in BC, heading out in the water may be tempting for residents. But with COVID-19 pandemic still ongoing, the Canadian Coast Guard is asking people to stay off the water unless it is needed. I mean, if you're in the water, oh, come on, folks. There's a lot. You can practice social distance on a big old, whether it's a lake or a river or an ocean. But stay off the water anyways. Yeah, sure, you might have a valid reason to go out and do that, and maybe you want to enjoy yourself. And yeah, you could probably practice social distancing, but now don't do any of that stuff. Just do what we say, right? I say, folks, it's all about control. On behalf of the Canadian Coast Guard, I am asking all Mariners to once again come to the aid of others by avoiding non-essential trips and consider staying home, close home to save lives as our country works to reduce the spread of COVID-19, said Assistant Commissioner Roger Gerard in a statement on Sunday. The Coast Guard says they have already responded to a higher number of search and rescue calls in the province compared to this time last year. With each response, the organization says their specialists are putting themselves at risk of exposure to COVID-19 and are using up the supplies of personal protective equipment that is desperately needed by critical care workers. So don't make me have to do my job. And because what? You don't have enough masks? That's the government's fault. Don't fucking ask the Canadian people to keep fucking denying their ability to enjoy their lives and go out and have a little fucking fun and fresh air or go out and spend some time on the waterways, right? Just because you fucks and your political masters haven't figured out a way how to take care of business, right? Listen, stop pointing your fingers to the Canadian people and start looking back in the mirror and your authorities or people who are in charge and recognize you're the ones that are failing. That's your job, dipshit. If you don't like your job, then leave it and let someone else do it that can do it, right? What the hell? Unbelievable. Don't dare. Now you know this. You know what this is? Like, this is so fucking irresponsible. Now you might have people that will, because there will be people out there on the waterways. Guaranteed there will be people out there on the waterways or enjoying themselves in the water or out there on the boat. But what this is, instead of this kind of a fucking ridiculous message, you know what this says to me is like, there could be people, you know what? There's possibly people might very well fucking die. I'm going to play their game just right along with them. This fucking idiot, fucking dipshit, Roger Gerard. You know what? By you putting forth this kind of a statement, you might be causing more harm and more death than what you pretend you're going to protect. Because now there's people that are like, normally they would call the Coast Guard. If maybe there might be someone drowning, or there might be a boat that's in trouble and the people need help or something like that. Now they're like, geez, maybe I better not call the Coast Guard because they're like apparently overwhelmed and I don't want to cause any more, hardships for these people. So you're basically appealing to people's emotions, and they're going to use that emotion to suppress or deny their own willingness to call out for help when it's needed, right? Which might mean more people are harmed or suffer or drown or die as a consequence. Because I don't want to call the cops out. First of all, either I don't want to get people in trouble, or I don't want to use up any resources in case they need it for other reasons, right? So once again, that's actually has just as much of an effect. I would suggest, if they want to play this political game, you can flip that script on them and say, well, hey, now you are putting and placing a lot of people out there in more precarious and dangerous situations because people might be now unwilling to call for help or assistance from the Coast Guard because of this kind of messaging. Anyways, folks, like I said, that will definitely be in the description of the stream as well. It's unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. But it's all about control at the end of the day. They're not thinking critically about any of this stuff. As you know, they're just thinking about having the control. Because that's what these people are all about. They go into these positions. They love them some control. And then there was this one. This was from the other day that one of the ones that I didn't get to. I won't waste too much time on it. It's just a submitted opinion piece, a second opinion, it says. But once again, CBC does love running these kind of stories, right? And if you look at what the headline of that is, should masks be mandatory in public to stop the spread of COVID-19? Evidence is still emerging, but experts say benefits of widespread mask usage far outweighs risk. This was a report by Adam Miller, April 25th, 2020. So anyways, like I say, I won't necessarily read the article. I kind of touched down a little bit in the past one, but I did want to get the very least. So yeah, people are just... Now, is it a good practice to wear a mask? I would suggest so, right? I would suggest it's probably a decent, at least something to, as an added layer or a benefit if you're that fearful. If you're not, then don't worry about it. If you are, then the mask does seem that it could possibly try to help you, or if you contact the disease yourself and you want to protect other people. Like I say, it does seem that it does have potential, but why the hell do you got to start to run yet another story like CBC loves to do, where people are talking about using mandatory force? CBC loves talking about using force or threats thereof, right? They just seem to love that stuff. But anyways, this was the one that I thought was most disturbing. So let me get this one here. Cover this one, folks, because this one was just unfrickin' believable. Now check this out. Check this out. If you've heard this story already, because a lot of people have probably already seen me that I've shared this story already on my social media pages this morning. But yeah, you better believe I'm going to be covering it in this video. Make sure you can see it. Yep. So, you got to go up a little further to get the actual headline. Police may charge Church of God in Aylmer, Ontario, after pastor defies COVID-19 orders, holds Sunday service. Police had warned the pastor about hosting the service. Now they say people will be held accountable. So you think, I mean, just off the top of my head, I was probably got the same reaction as most of you are as well. Well, why did they hold a church service? That is putting people into close proximity and going against the 6-foot rule and all this stuff. Well, first of all, even if that's your original thought process as it was for me, it's like, but they've all chosen to go out there voluntary themselves to do so. So where's the government in any kind of authority position to tell people what they can do if they're the ones that are accepting or assuming the risk themselves, right? And taking that personal responsibility. But nope. It's even better than that, folks, because nobody, not the pastor or any of the people that chose to attend this particular church service, put anyone in any danger, as you'll find out based on when I read this article. So this was reported by National Post staff, April 27th, 2020. Oh, come on with the freaking ads already. A church in Aylmer, Ontario may face charges after ignoring rules on social distancing, instead holding service on Sunday morning. Police had warned the Church of God about hosting the outdoor service, but the warnings fell on deaf ears. Now police say people will be held accountable after officers showed up and took video of the scene. Though officers took no immediate action on the day, it seems imminent, with police saying they are readying a file for prosecutors. On Sunday, some 70 cars were seen arriving at the church's parking lot. The local pastor, Henry Hildebrand, spoke from a raised platform as those who gathered to hear his words remained in their vehicles. His celebration went out over a radio signal the congregants tuned into from their cars. The congregants turned into it from their cars. I'm so glad we can do it like this. I can never be distant from you. Never. I can never be distant from you, Hildebrand said. We're here this morning in order for you to cast your eyes on me, to come here so we can see one another. So why don't we just wave at each other and honk a little bit, he said. And car horns rang out. The pastor felt that the event was a scene no different to the average grocery store lot on an average Sunday. Global News reports that this was the church's third such service and that police had previously threatened that they would use roadblocks to halt it. Meanwhile, everyone is practicing their distancing and staying in their own car. The preacher himself is talking through doing a radio broadcast. So basically like what you would get in a drive-in theater, right? So you just tune your radio in your car and so everyone's practicing their social distance and everyone is isolated inside their own vehicle except the pastor, and he's there by himself. So come on, everyone's following all the rules. It's just that they're not respecting the authority of these authoritarian petty tyrants or thugs, these police, right? We explained to them that it's not mandatory to show up. Whoever would like to join this morning, it's your decision, and you could possibly be ticketed. They show up and were cheering me on. We're not asking for special privilege or treatment. There was no parking lots as safe as ours this morning. We had no interaction before, during, or after. The pastor said he doesn't know if tickets will arrive, but Inspector Nick Novicic of Almer Police Services told CTV, today, our officers were on scene monitoring the events and watching what was taking place. Just because the public didn't see us handing out a ticket, like a speed stop, people will be held accountable for what happened today. It's no secret that officers were videotaping the event, and we will review all that video, and we'll put a package together to present this to the local county prosecutor to see what route we need to follow. He went on. Through consultation this week with provincial and federal prosecutors, there is nothing saying we had to physically issue tickets to everyone in attendance. There are other avenues we can pursue, including serving a summons on those who were in breach. It's serving a summons on those who are in breach. You know what summons is? What? A summons to appear? A summons to court? To go to another place where you're not allowed to go? Because, yeah, courts are mostly locked down these days, right? So maybe this person should try to inform themselves, right? Almer Police noted in a statement provided to Global that the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act said it is illegal to gather in groups of more than 5 people, which includes religious services. But, right, unless there was more than 5 people in those cars, which I haven't heard that being reported on as of yet, right? They were all doing exactly what they're following the rules entirely. But yet, like I say, it's contempt of cop, right? That's all it is. What these people have done wrong, contempt of cop or contempt of authority. That's all it is. Oh, you won't do what I say? Oh, you motherfucker. You ever challenge a cop when they try to tell you to do anything? Yeah. You'll find out how quickly these fucking little tyrants, these little thugs will turn real vicious on you, because that's what they are at the end of the day. When people say, oh, cops are so oh, well, then you must kiss their ass, do you? Because if you don't kiss their ass, challenge their authority a little bit, you'll find out that those people that you pretend they're so nice. That's the thing when people talk about this stuff. It's like, yeah, Hitler had fucking manners, for Christ's sakes. Yeah, even some of the most tyrannical thugs on the planet and authoritarian regimes had table manners, right? And treated some people decent. What the? People are, like I say, statism. The power of that on people's mind destroys their ability to think critically at all. Just unbelievable. Pastor Hildebrand, it seems, remains undeterred by such a threat. Good for you, Pastor Hildebrand. You guys got balls of steel, and good for you. Those are your God-given balls of steel that you're using to practice your freedom of speech, and good for you. I wish there were more Canadians like you, sir. Sir, yes, sir. I was overwhelmed to see how many people did stop by to listen in, and also feel we did very well in social distancing, the pastor said when the service wrapped up. This is not a gathering because people are staying in their vehicles. There was no crowd to be seen anywhere. When I preach, I use my hands, my arms. Half of my preaching is by my actions. It's very important to interact that way. As you saw, we waved at each other and blinked lights. It just makes all the difference. All right. And these are religious people, not exactly the most people, not exactly the criminal elements of society, right? So, these people were doing their best to try to do everything proper and legal, and actually probably were following orders to the letter of the law, basically, except, like I say, apparently there was not exactly the letter of the law, so these fuckers are going to try to figure a way to come down with a heavy hand of authority on them for daring to not follow it, I guess, by every letter of the law. But like I say, at the very least, these people were definitely trying to be responsible people, and definitely not trying to put people in precarious situations. So come on, right? Yeah, we'll save this one for another day. Because I actually had one more article, but it's kind of not really along these lines. But anyways, folks, so yeah, I got it done. We're done. Let me just check in the stream here real quick, see what else. It looks like pseudoscientists. You do a lot of commenting. That's awesome. Called about city should do more on enforcing physical. What's this? 1,558 people called about city should do more on enforcing physical distancing. Huh? Park facility closures. 850. Bunch of rats, right? Bunch of narcs. These people know what they're doing and have been at it for far too long, unfortunately. Yeah. I have to give them credit for grooming the younger gen, as they seem to have no problem putting all their info out there. It's very sad. Oh, you guys must be talking amongst each other, I guess. Anyways, folks. Yeah, it looks like everyone's just kind of talking amongst each other. Yeah, the ad blocker is good. Well, it's good for some things, bad for people like me, but I get it. Listen, I don't even give people a hard time that use ad block because, like I say, it's crazy the way, because that's the thing. People wouldn't be so bad if you had an ad or two, right? Which is why even when I monetize my videos, I put the bare minimum, the one at the beginning, and there's usually one at the end, but that's it. I don't even like to put them in the middle, right? Because I get, like, yeah, they can be frustrating, but unfortunately, it's the only way to get paid these days, which is why, like I say, I prefer if we could get into more of a pay-to-play model. Snitches, bitches. Right on. But unfortunately, until that time comes, it is what it is. Glad to see scenes like church parking lots happening will help. Yes, me too, Paul Lucas. And like I say, I'm really, really proud of that pastor for showing some resolve, some resilience. And like I say, because they did it in and practiced such safety and did it in such a secure manner where they were practicing social distancing, but it does emphasize and show just how petty these thugs truly can be. And like I say, towards a pastor and people that are just trying to show up for a church. Anyways, yeah, it looked like the chance. So I'm definitely going to tie the stream up while I still have control over how it ends. But anyways, like I say, thanks for everyone that showed up to the stream today. Like I say, I'm not sure when and this was definitely a later one. I'm going to definitely try to stick with doing them earlier in the day. But what I do now is just to make sure people know that it is live. I'm adding into what I'm sharing to my social media pages that I'm live now, so that they know that it's not just me sharing my video or my stream that you can watch later. I'll at least let you know that I'm live, even on the social media pages. So if you're not getting that YouTube notification and you do see that my post up there says I'm live, you can come check out the stream anyways. Yeah, I seen that it did freeze there a little bit there, Mr. G Rich. But anyways, like I say, thanks for everyone that showed up the stream. We'll see you in the next one. It's Canadian Libertarian. I love liberty. And make sure everyone's taking care of yourself and those you love. Don't forget about those things, because like I say, family is very important, and we got to keep our loved ones close and safe, but at the same time, leading by example, and not turn the younger people into the cowards or conformists. So we got to really lead by example as best we can. But anyways, like I say, have a good one. Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.